So we need to talk about what is going on with the current nationwide vacatur en bloc of the ATF's pistol brace / SBR rule. The Trump DOJ continues to allow this issue to move forward towards oral arguments. However, that all may actually be stopped because Congress is now taking action on the issue of SBRs. So let's break down what is happening. Now, before we jump into this video, I want to thank one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Attorneys on Retainer. When it comes to protecting yourself against a self-defense incident, AOR is in a league of their own. They're an actual law firm that can help you in situations in self-defense incidents that maybe other companies would not. And right now, AOR has expanded their coverage. They have a ton of new benefits, including expanded civil liability coverage, red flag law coverage, expungement coverage, and a lot of other features that they've now added in. So if you want what is, in my opinion, the best self-defense coverage on the market, check out AOR using the link down below. And if you sign up using my code ARMEDSCHOLAR, you can get $50 off an individual sign-up plan or $25 off of a family plan. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, we have some important news in the battle against the ATF and their current restrictions on all brace pistols in trying to treat them as SBRs. Currently, there is a nationwide vacatur on the pistol brace rule and multiple preliminary injunctions which are protecting various tool organizations, their memberships, and companies and customers as well. However, now with the new administration in power and the recent Trump executive order on the Second Amendment, we were all waiting to see how the Fifth Circuit would respond and what would happen with the Biden administration's pistol brace rule, and potentially what would the Trump administration do to roll that back. The Trump administration in this case notified the Fifth Circuit that they wanted to hold the pending review of this case temporarily so that they could essentially determine how they wanted to proceed forward on this issue. The Fifth Circuit granted a temporary abeyance of this issue, and it was set to automatically dissolve on April 14th. And we saw that timeline come and go, and the Trump administration really made no effort to, supplement their brief, make new arguments, and we really saw no notice in that case. As a result of that, the Fifth Circuit set oral arguments to take place on this issue, and oral arguments are going to take place on this mock pistol brace case on August 4th. That means that the Fifth Circuit may have received some indication from the Trump administration that they still plan to continue forward in this case, at least at this current time. However, that entire hearing may actually become moot, and this whole lawsuit might actually become a non-issue because Congress has now stepped in on this issue of SBRs, and they included the SHORT Act in the Big Beautiful Bill. If the SHORT Act passes in the Senate and the House and gets signed by Trump, not only is the whole pistol brace rule by the Biden administration no longer enforceable, but also a lot of these lawsuits like the mock lawsuit and other ones in other circuit courts will probably go to the wayside. Now, in this mock lawsuit on pistol braces, you may recall that the ATF recently suffered multiple losses in a variety of cases. Not only were multiple preliminary injunctions granted against the rule, but recently Judge O'Connor issued a final merits decision in the mock lawsuit, striking down the rule completely on the final merits. So that was a nationwide vacatur of the rule. In his ruling, Judge O'Connor stated that at the conclusion of the majority's careful analysis, they held that the final rule is properly characterized as a legislative rule, and it is relatively straightforward that the final rule was not a logical outgrowth of the proposed rule. Therefore, the final rule must be set aside as unlawful or otherwise remanded for appropriate remediation. That decision was huge because it was a final merits ruling that struck down the pistol brace rule entirely nationwide. So it kind of made that void temporarily. Now, in response to that, the then Biden administration and the then Biden ATF decided to appeal up to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Currently, all of the briefs have been submitted. Those original briefs were submitted by the Biden administration. They were all submitted, and we're waiting for this case to move towards oral arguments. However, of course, the administration shifted over. The Trump administration now has control of this case, and they said that they wanted to temporarily hold abeyance of this case. They wanted to hold this case in abeyance, hold off on those oral arguments so that they could determine maybe how they need to shift their position in this case. The Trump administration has shifted their position in a lot of 2A cases like the Peterson suppressor challenge. They shifted policy in that one. We also saw recently that they filed an amicus brief in the Illinois rifle and magazine ban challenges, and there's a lot of other things that they filed as well to the Supreme Court. However, in this specific case, even though they asked for an abeyance, we really haven't seen them take any action. Instead, now the Fifth Circuit has acted on their own and set oral arguments to take place in this challenge on the week of August 4th. That could mean that the Fifth Circuit has some indication that the administration maybe still plans to proceed forward with this challenge at this time, and maybe they're actually going to defend the pistol brace rule, without additional briefing from the Trump administration or any supplemental briefs saying that they're going to change policy. You would have to assume that the administration will continue to argue in favor of the pistol brace rule. Now, I don't think that that's actually how it's going to play out, but that's at least what's currently going on right now. We have not seen them actually make a shift when it comes to pistol braces. Recently, we received multiple statements from the AG's office through the chief of staff that they have changed positions in a lot of cases like the Peterson suppressor challenge and, like I mentioned, the Illinois rifle magazine ban cases. But on this issue of pistol braces, nothing yet has happened. That could also be potentially because they're waiting to see how the efforts in Congress will actually develop when it comes to SBRs. We recently saw the effort to get the SHORT Act added back into H.R. 1, the big beautiful bill, that was successful. And of course, if the SHORT Act passes in the Senate, is also passed in the House and goes to Trump and is signed into law, this whole pistol brace issue and the whole rule that was put in place by the Biden administration really is no longer relevant. That's because the pistol brace rule that was put in place by the Biden administration is really dependent on treating brace pistols as SBRs and therefore, as a result, bringing them under the NFA's restrictions. However, if through the SHORT Act, SBRs are no longer treated as NFA-regulated items, the entire foundation of that brace rule crumbles, and essentially it's no longer valid. Also, all of these lawsuits will likely become moot. So if you really want to get rid of the pistol brace rule, one of the big things that we can do right now, not just in favor of this case, but this entire issue, is I highly recommend that you call your senators and tell them not only do you support the SHORT Act, which aimed to get rid of SBRs and their restrictions under the NFA, but tell them you're in favor of the Hearing Protection Act, which essentially aims to do the same thing in regards to suppressors. And you can contact your senator by calling 202-224-3121. Again, tell them you're in support of them voting in favor of the Hearing Protection Act and the SHORT Act and keeping them in H.R. 1. Now, one important thing to note with all of this is that the current Fifth Circuit actions right now and the oral arguments that are pending do not impact the nationwide vacatur decision that was issued by Judge O'Connor. That remains in place right now until the Fifth Circuit rules on the merits of this case after the oral arguments, or until the Trump administration acts on the rule, or maybe even the SHORT Act is passed into law. My hope is that the oral arguments being set for August actually become irrelevant and that the SHORT Act kind of makes this all moot. But regardless of what the administration decides to do, we're still in a good spot when it comes to the Fifth Circuit. And I think they're going to rule that the brace pistol rule is actually invalid under the Administrative Procedures Act, similar to how they did on review of the preliminary injunction. Again, of course, I hope that the Senate actually keeps the HPA and the SHORT Act and the big beautiful bill, and they neuter the NFA significantly. And hopefully that's how this plays out, and really we don't have to deal with SBRs and suppressors being regulated under the NFA anymore. So that's what's currently going on with this critical challenge, which aims to block the pistol brace rule nationwide. That's currently keeping that block in place. That's how this interplays with the whole SBR issue. That's what the Trump administration has done so far on this brace pistol issue. And that's kind of what impact Congress can have also on this lawsuit with their current efforts to pass the SHORT Act. So as we get more information, as this unravels even more, I will let you guys know. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.